Now that we have discussed some of the practical approaches to teaching and learning, such as Bloom's taxonomy, Dale's cone of experience, and Gardner's multiple intelligences, it is time to organize learning theories under broader teaching and learning models. These models help us understand who the learner is and how learning should be designed. The three major models we consider are pedagogy, andragogy, and heutagogy. Let us begin with pedagogy, which refers to the systematic study of education and human development. Pedagogy examines upbringing, teaching methods, learning processes, and cultural growth, focusing on both individual development and societal conditions. Educational theories under pedagogy guide teachers in planning lessons, designing curricula, and selecting appropriate instructional strategies. From an exam point of view, pedagogy is closely associated with foundational learning theories that explain how learners acquire knowledge. Under pedagogy, there are 5 primary learning theories that form the backbone of educational psychology: behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, humanism, and connectivism. Each of these theories explains learning from a different perspective, and all of them are important from the examination point of view. Let us now focus on cognitivism, a learning theory that shifts attention from observable behavior to internal mental processes. Cognitivism explains learning as the process of acquiring, organizing, or reorganizing cognitive structures in the mind. It describes how the brain processes, stores, retrieves, and applies information. Key contributors to cognitivism include Albert Bandura, Jean Piaget, Jerome Bruner, and David Ausubel. This theory places strong emphasis on mental activities such as thinking, reasoning, problem solving, and decision making. Cognitivism encourages the use of metacognitive strategies which allow learners to monitor and regulate their own learning. These strategies include planning, predicting, managing time, reflecting, and making decisions. Teaching methods under cognitivism promote active learning through problem-solving tasks and conceptual frameworks such as research models. Teachers activate prior knowledge using techniques like imagery, elaboration, mnemonics, analogies, metaphors, questioning, and note-taking. Information is organized by chunking it into meaningful units, and tools such as concept maps are used to provide overviews and enhance understanding. Reflection is central to cognitivism, as learners are encouraged to record, review, and improve their thinking processes. From an exam perspective, it is important to remember that cognitive development refers to the construction of thought processes, including remembering, reasoning, problem solving, and decision making, a statement that has been directly asked in exams. When a student struggles to understand, analyze, or interpret subject concepts, it is the learner's cognitive characteristics that must be examined. In contrast, believing what is true is considered a non-cognitive characteristic, while the level of visual literacy is clearly identified as a cognitive characteristic, both of which are confirmed exam points. Now let us move to Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development, also known as the developmental stage theory, which forms a core part of cognitivism. Jean Piaget, who lived from 1896 to 1980, studied the nature and development of intelligence in children. According to Piaget, knowledge is not simply transmitted by adults. Instead, children actively construct knowledge through personal experience. Learning, in his view, occurs independently of adult instruction, as children are naturally motivated to explore their environment. Because of this intrinsic motivation, Piaget believed that rewards are not necessary for learning. Piaget explained that cognitive development occurs gradually over time and progresses through distinct stages. Learning is active, self-directed, and driven by the child's interaction with the environment. An important exam-tested statement highlights that the brain continues to develop throughout childhood and adolescence. According to Piaget, there are 4 stages of cognitive development, and remembering their correct order is essential for exams. The stages in ascending order are the sensorimotor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. Let us begin with the sensorimotor stage, which occurs from birth to approximately 18 to 24 months. During this stage, infants explore the world through their senses and physical movements. They develop habits and circular reactions such as thumb sucking and gradually learn to coordinate their actions. A major milestone of this stage is the development of object permanence, the understanding that objects continue to exist even when they are out of sight. Games like peekaboo are engaging only until object permanence develops. Once infants understand permanence, the game loses its novelty. This stage is entirely action-based, and learning occurs through reflexes, sensory experiences, and motor actions, a point that has been repeatedly asked in exams. Logical and goal-directed thinking does not yet occur at this stage. It begins later during the pre-operational and concrete operational stages. Let us continue with Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development by looking more closely at the sensorimotor stage, which Piaget further divided into 6 distinct substages. These substages explain how infants gradually move from reflexive actions to intentional and mentally represented behavior. The first substage is simple reflexes, occurring from birth to about 6 weeks, where infants respond automatically through actions such as sucking and grasping. This is followed by the stage of first habits and primary circular reactions from around 6 weeks to 4 months, where infants begin repeating actions centered on their own bodies, such as thumb sucking. The third substage is secondary circular reactions, occurring between 4 and 8 months, when infants start repeating actions that produce interesting effects in their environment, such as shaking a rattle. This is followed by the coordination of secondary circular reaction stage between 8 and 12 months, where infants combine actions deliberately to achieve goals, such as pushing one object aside to reach another. The fifth substage, tertiary circular reactions, from 12 to 18 months, is marked by experimentation, novelty, and curiosity, as infants intentionally try new behaviors to see what happens. Finally, the sensorimotor stage ends with the internalization of schemas between 18 and 24 months, when children begin forming mental representations of objects and events, setting the foundation for symbolic thought. We now move into the pre-operational stage, which begins at the end of the second year and lasts until about 7 years of age. This stage starts when children begin to speak and marks a significant shift towards symbolic thinking. During this period, children develop stable concepts but also exhibit magical beliefs and imaginative thinking. Physical and pretend play increase, and children often struggle to see perspectives other than their own, a characteristic known as egocentrism. Because of this, questions like, "How do you think I feel?" may be difficult for them to answer. From an exam perspective, remember that the pre-operational stage focuses on language development and the use of symbols to represent objects, a statement that has been directly asked multiple times. The pre-operational stage is further divided into 2 substages. The first is the symbolic function substage, typically from ages 2 to 4. During this period, children use symbols, images, and words to represent objects mentally, even when those objects are not physically present. This explains why young children may draw family members unrealistically large or small. The drawings reflect meaning rather than proportion. The second is the intuitive thought substage, from ages 4 to 7, where children begin asking frequent questions such as why and how come. Although their reasoning is not yet logical, curiosity increases, conversations become more complex, and children show a strong desire to understand the world around them. Next, we enter the concrete operational stage, which typically spans from 7 to 11 years of age. During this stage, children's thinking becomes more organized, logical, and mature, though still tied to concrete objects and experiences. Learners begin solving problems independently using logical reasoning and develop inductive reasoning, where they draw general conclusions from specific observations. However, they may still struggle with deductive reasoning, which requires predicting outcomes based on abstract principles. Initially, thinking and moral reasoning may still be somewhat self-centered, but over time, children begin to consider others' perspectives more carefully. A major hallmark of the concrete operational stage is the development of key logical concepts, including identity, reversibility, conservation, decentration, and seriation. Children can now classify objects into categories and subcategories and understand hierarchical relationships. From an exam point of view, remember that learners at this stage can think logically about concrete problems, but abstract thinking has not yet fully developed. This stage generally corresponds to early schooling and extends up to early adolescence. Finally, we reach the formal operational stage, which begins around 11 years of age and continues into adulthood. This stage is sometimes referred to as the Little Plato stage because of its emphasis on abstract reasoning. Learners develop metacognition, meaning they can think about their own thinking processes. Problem solving becomes systematic and may involve multiple steps, hypothetical situations, and abstract concepts. Piaget highlighted hypothetical deductive reasoning as a defining feature of this stage, allowing learners to explore what-if scenarios and test possibilities mentally. At this stage, learners can reason beyond concrete experiences, making it essential for advanced learning in science, mathematics, and philosophy. Early in the stage, thinking may still involve trial and error, but gradually it becomes logical, methodical, and analytical. From an exam perspective, it is important to remember that adolescents are placed in the formal operational stage, and learners here can think hypothetically, deductively, and abstractly, all of which have been directly tested in previous exams. Now, let us briefly look at other important cognitive theorists who contributed significantly to learning theory. Jerome Bruner, an American psychologist, made major contributions to cognitive psychology and proposed the idea of scaffolding in the late 1950s. Scaffolding refers to providing structured support to learners during the learning process and gradually removing it as learners become more competent. Bruner also studied how children acquire language and emphasized discovery-based learning. Another influential figure is Albert Bandura, an American psychologist of Canadian origin who developed the social cognitive theory of learning. He is best known for the Bobo doll experiment, which demonstrated that children learn behaviors by observing adults. This experiment introduced the concept of observational learning, highlighting the role of models, imitation, and social context in learning. Lastly, David Ausubel made significant contributions to educational psychology through his meaningful learning theory. He introduced the concept of advanced organizers, which help learners integrate new information into existing cognitive structures. Ausubel emphasized that learning becomes meaningful when new knowledge is logically connected to what the learner already knows, supporting a hierarchical organization of concepts.